In Module 5.3, I'll talk about green buildings. In the U.S., green buildings are accredited by the U.S. Green Building Council. This group developed something called LEED, and you may have heard of LEED accreditation or LEED certified buildings. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and you'll see why energy precedes the word environment in this acronym. So what gets LEED accredited? Well, today it's evolved to 5 separate items. We'll talk about this one right here, which is building a building brand new. However, interior design can also be accredited, as well as an existing building called operations and maintenance, and even developments in homes. So how does this work? Well, it's based on a point system. The lowest level accreditation or certification is called LEED certified. That's the green on the left. Then you have silver, gold, and the ultimate is platinum. If you accumulate more than 80 points, you are LEED Platinum certified. That's a pretty difficult thing to achieve. So how does it work? How do you get these points? Well, there are really 6 categories and then 2 additional ones that have been added over the years. And I'll go over each one of these. Each of these categories has a point value. Let's go over the system one by one. However, the new system, called version V4, LEED Certified V4, broke out these 2 items. So the old system combined the first 2, but the new system has separated them out. Here's the score sheet. And you see here the 6 categories: location, sustainable sites, water, energy, materials, and indoor air. Those are the 6 categories. But then there are 2 separate categories which offer you more points. So let me give you some examples of each of these categories. Location and transportation. Well, you get 16 points maximum for this category. And if you notice, there's a full 16 points if you're in a brownfield area. New York City can designate an area that it really wants developed. And for that, it could apply for LEED to get those extra points for that development. And that would be called brownfield development. But if you can't do that, putting in a bicycle rack, providing green vehicles, reducing the footprint of the parking area will get you different amounts of points. And you can see how from sensitive land protection down, it totals 16 points. The next category is sustainable sites. And in this, you get 10 points max. However, there's a prerequisite. To even get LEED certified, you must have construction activity pollution prevention, meaning while you build a building, do not pollute the rivers, the air, the environment in general. And that must happen. But you also get points for heat island reduction. You see the white paint on the roofs. New York City does a lot of that these days. Also light pollution reduction, rainwater management will get you 3 points, and on and on. Water efficiency may surprise you. You only get 11 points, and that's because water efficiency is so ingrained in our society. Notice what's required is an outdoor water use reduction, indoor water use reduction, building level water metering. Those 3 have to be complied with. By the way, indoor water use reduction means low volume toilets and showers. So what is this exactly? Well, this is sort of a fascinating device. It's of course a men's urinal, and it's a waterless urinal, using the principle that water is heavier than certain oils, so there's a sealant liquid that acts as a cap. So what happens here is the urine accumulates and drains off into a pipe. And the blue water layer, the oil layer, keeps the odors away. If ever you're trying to flush, this is of course for the men in the class, if you go to a 3, 2, 1, go. The next category is water efficiency. Notice you only get 11 points for that, and the first 3 items are required. Usually indoor water use reduction, which is required, is complied with low volume toilets, which today it's almost impossible to buy a high volume toilet. However, there's other ways to save on water, and this is a fascinating device. It's called a waterless urinal, and it's using the concept of oil that floats on water, and of course the water here being human urine, so that there's a gap between the urine and the airspace. If you're trying to flush something, guys, and there's no handle to press, you are urinating in a waterless urinal. The next one is water collection systems. Now, this is not a big building, of course. This is a home, but many people in water restricted areas collect their rainwater and use it as what's called gray water. Another use of gray water is the Bank of America building. Every drop of water that hits this building from a rainstorm on is collected and reused in the toilets. So the toilets in this building are not drinkable water, though most toilets, believe it or not, it is potable water. All the water in these toilets are essentially coming from rainwater that's been collected. So there's a zero water budget for this. However, the biggest category, notice 33 points, is all about energy. And there's a lot going on here. Notice 18 points for basically metering and developing an energy performance system, what's called a smart meter or a smart building. If it's very sunny out, things change. If it's cloudy and cold, the system will adjust automatically. This is very sophisticated and is developing rapidly, especially since energy savings translates directly into monetary savings. And there are some other examples, including a jet engine on the bottom right, which is actually used to produce energies for buildings. Many buildings have adopted natural gas in these jet engines to produce their own electricity. The next category is materials and resources. This is essentially recycling. 13 points here, and there's storage and collection of recyclables is a required element. Of course, many towns have also made that required, so it's not a difficult thing to comply with. Also, construction demolition waste while the building is being built is required. But notice using recycled steel or using slag for concrete, or going beyond just recycling and offering, let's say, compostable cups, or being able to purchase a cup instead of using a disposable cup, will get you more points. Now, this is, of course, my favorite category because it's all about environmental quality. It used to be called indoor air quality, but now it's called indoor environmental quality. And if you scan these, you'll see it goes all the way from air quality to light. And the first two items are required, making sure there's a minimum indoor air quality that's complied with, also tobacco smoke. But notice low emitting materials. This is a program where many buildings buy carpets that are low VOC carpets or furnishings that are low VOCs, including cleaning products, as well as thermal comfort, interior lighting, and even controlling a conference room. This particular conference room has carbon dioxide sensors to make sure the levels are optimal and people are not falling asleep. It also automatically adjusts for temperature in different parts of the room. Very sophisticated environmental controls. One of my most favorite, of course, is particle collection. Notice in some brand new buildings, as you walk into it, there's a grate. Now that grate is doing many different things. It's collecting slushy snow in the winter or water in the summer. But very often there's negative pressure, and as you walk across it and scrape your feet on the rough carpeted area, you're actually sucking up the particles from your feet. There's no doubt that the indoor air quality in many of these new buildings is far better than the outdoor air quality, especially for green buildings. This is very, very well known. But what I think is new in this is quality views. To think that you could get 1 point if the building has some quality views, and of course acoustic performance is another pretty cool item. Now the last two categories are called innovation and regional priority. Innovation is just that. LEED, the U.S. Green Building Council, knows that there's a lot more to be developed, and by creating this category, they allow manufacturers and builders to say, well, look, we just developed this new system and it's extremely green. How about getting some points? And this is the way they would get the points under that category, innovation. And obviously, if a building has a LEED accredited person, they will also get 1 point for that. So what's with regional priority? Well, think about it this way. Conserving water in Arizona is much more challenging than conserving water in New York. And there's a bias here. Obviously, New York can get a lot of points here because we have plenty of water. Whereas Arizona, it's very difficult to conserve water, and the effort should be rewarded greatly. Likewise, New York City is abundantly blessed with mass transit. So getting points for mass transit in New York City is somewhat silly, whereas getting points in Arizona for mass transit would be very good. So these regional differences are accommodated in this category. The first LEED Platinum building is the Bank of America Tower in New York City. There's an entire web page about this building, and I want you to go over it and look at some of the attributes. We discussed the first two a little. It has waterless toilets, bike racks, cement made with slag. It has shade control for temperature in conference rooms, sensors. It has an underfloor vent system. It actually has its own power plant, so it's sort of quite green that way, using low carbon dioxide producing fuels. What's very interesting is it's got fresh air intakes 10 stories above the grade of the street, which means as buses race by, all that gas from the diesel exhaust do not get sucked into the building that then either have to get purified or hurt people. Also, particles get caught at the entryway. If you're on the corner of 42nd Street and 6th Avenue, peek into this building and read more about it. It's quite fascinating. What's very interesting is that gas stations can be green, and it's the structure that gets accredited, not necessarily the concept. Same thing with a green automotive dealership. This is an automobile. Is it possible that they're not polluting? Well, it has nothing to do with the product. It's about the building, including the Nestle Pure Life water bottling plant. These are the people that make the plastic water bottles. And the plant itself is green, but not necessarily the product. So what are some of the controversies? Well, the biggest one that I personally, that bothers me, is sometimes we're destroying a beautiful building to build a green building. Well, how green is that really? We already have a building. Can't we renovate it as opposed to knocking it down? Think of all the environmental consequences and all the new materials we need to build a new building. And the images you're looking at here is the Alexander's department store on Lexington Avenue, which was replaced with the Bloomberg Tower and home to many apartments, condos, and the Bloomberg Empire. Also, there's no post-accreditation inspection system, meaning once you get accredited, no one comes to make sure you're complying. So once you get your score and your plaque, that's it. So cheating is quite possible in getting some of these points. Also, sometimes they'll do things and they'll renovate the building and remove the attributes that got them accredited in the first place. But again, given that there's no inspection procedures, it's hard to really go back. Okay, that's it for this module. I'll leave you with this accreditation if some of you want to pursue this. Many environmental health specialists become LEED certified because they are the closest thing in a building to being sort of the environmental officer. So I'll let you read this and consider whether you want to get LEED accredited. So that's the end of Module 5.3, Green Buildings.